I don't know how to start this. I don't really know how to start this, but to make myself feel better, we're just gonna make this a conversation between the two of us. Me and chat, okay? Because at the end of the day, if I start stumbling, it's live. We can just go back and I can edit it out later. Today we're going to be talking about Entei, Raikou. We're off to a great start. Today we're going to be talking about Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. And before we begin, we need to refresh on their origin. Before we bring up the topic that, is in the thumbnail of the video that you're watching, and the title of the video that you're watching, and the title of the stream for the people that are here live, you already know where I'm going with this, but we need to set ourselves up with the origin of these three legendary dogs. The beasts find their master in Ho-Oh, who revived them when the Ecruteak city's brass tower burned. They are said to embody the three events that happened in the tower: the lightning that struck the tower, the fire that burned in the tower, and the winds and rain that put it out. It is unknown whether these three were already a Suicune, Raikou, and Entei before they were revived, or whether Ho-Oh actually reincarnated them from three non-legendary Pokemon. Now, since the day that this all happened, there has been a very persistent theory. Okay, I almost said rumor. Theory, okay? That theory is something... I have to find the right panel for this. Off to a great start. The theory that has persisted from the beginning of Gen 2 is that these three legendary dogs are evolutions. And we are here today to disprove that. Alright? As you can see in this, I don't even remember where this is from. This is just like one of those images that's passed around for all eternity, right? It is that people assumed that if there were Pokemon that got reincarnated into the three legendary dogs, it would have been Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon, because they are a signature trio, right? Just like the legendary birds were. They're canine, right? They're from like the canine family, right? So it kind of makes sense. And then they have the same typing as Entei, Raikou, and Suicune, right? So I get it. I get where people are coming from. I understand. But they're wrong. They are wrong. First of all, before we get into that though, we have to make a few pit stops. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't mean to just shut you guys down like that. First of all, these three legendary dogs are in fact not legendary dogs. Okay, we got to get that out of the way. This is from Dr. Lava on Twitter. I don't remember who he said translated it, but he gathered together some of the tweets from the designer of the three legendary dogs that are not dogs, and I'm going to read that off to you first, okay? So first, Entei's design was coming together. You could say it was basically like a lion, but I didn't want it to simply be an animal, so I settled on a silhouette that could look like a dog or a cat. After that, I fell into a tiger-like design and a leopard-like design for Raikou and Suicune. Basically, Entei is a lion, Raikou is a tiger, and Suicune is a leopard. Alright, so if anything, they are legendary cats, not legendary dogs. Okay, so let's get that part out of the way. They still have dog qualities to them, I understand where people are coming from, right? But basically, they're not dogs. They're not really cats either, but they lean a lot more towards cats than dogs. But this is the big catch. Some of you guys might already know where I might be going with this. If you do, don't spoil it in chat, okay? Because some people already know, because I have posted this on Twitter myself, way back in the day, okay? Way back in the day, I think it's important that this is not necessarily used to reveal something only, but to also teach you guys something. Okay? And that topic I'm going to teach you guys is the Bible. Alright? We're going to learn about the Bible. Okay, so first of all, it's not that kind of Bible. It is, in the world of Pokemon and many video games, it is as important as the Bible, but it is not that Bible, alright? It is not the Bible you think of when someone says the Bible. I don't remember where I first heard this. I don't remember if I first heard this in my game design classes in college. I don't remember if I first started this talking to game developers. I don't know how common it is as jargon or a term used in studios, but when you're creating a game, you have something that I've heard referred to as a Bible. It's kind of like a lore Bible, or like, basically it's the source of all your information. And the thing, game Bibles are highly used still nowadays. Yes. Basically all game studios have them. I just wasn't familiar if every studio calls it their Bible, right? And that's basically what we're going to be talking about today. The important thing I want to bring up is when I made my last video about Red being Princess Peach, I got a few comments in different places that were very angry that I didn't use in-lore examples of why Red was Princess Peach. They're like, there is no lore that supports this. There is nothing in the games that supports that Red is Princess Peach. And I'm not going to go spoil that video. You got to go watch it, right? But while I understand where those people are coming from, because lore is like the solidified version of the source material, so that for sure is real, right? Unless they retcon it later. While that is the solidified version, that is not the source of that information. That there is a place that lore comes from, and that's usually the Bible. Even though the lore in the game is finalized, that is not the ultimate source of information. That is not the highest tier of information. And that is what so many people, when they're creating Pokemon theories, when they're talking about, when they're trying to solve things, when they're trying to come up with answers to decades-old mysteries, that is what I want to say like 95% of people don't think about. That there are human beings on the other side making this game that have, that make this stuff up, right? Like, the Pokemon isn't, sorry, but Pokemon isn't real, right? I know that's like, I know that's hard to take sometimes, and, especially for me, who has like 1,000 Pokemon things behind him, right? It is made by somebody. No. It's okay, I'm sorry. It is something that I argue on Twitter far too much. With people who are like, this isn't in the games. I'm like, it's, you have to understand that it's created by people. There's like history on how people like arrived at what, final designs in the game. There's just so much that goes into a game before it's made, right? And that is how I reverse engineer like 95% of my answers. So when we do all of our Pokemon presentations from here on, and other video game presentations, a lot of the times we're going to go back in time through like video game preservation, video game history, like looking at it from a designer's perspective, stuff like that, okay? So to support what I'm talking about, just in case you don't believe me or you don't see the importance of this, to prove what I'm talking about and to prove how prevalent the Bible, the video game Bible is in every series, we are going to use something very relevant to now. And that is Paper Mario, okay? There is a lot of controversy going on with Paper Mario right now. But if you have been looking at games this way for a long time, as I have and other people have, you'll know that what is happening to Paper Mario is already happening in like 1,000 other games. Does it suck? What we're going to talk about? Yes. So like, just if you're here listening to the video on YouTube, from here on out, yes, I agree it does suck, okay? Especially because like, we knew what it was like not to have what this is, and now they have it, and now like the restrictions, now it sucks, but let's go over it, okay? Recently, they had a interview, and we're going to skim past this really quick, where Tanabe, this is from Video Games Chronicle, Tanabe says, since Paper Mario Sticker Star, it is no longer possible to modify Mario characters or to create original characters that touch on the Mario universe. That means if we aren't using Mario characters for bosses, we need to create original characters with designs that don't involve the Mario universe at all, like we've done with Ollie and the stationary bosses, okay? Interview number 1, following up later with Eurogamer Germany, translated by Nintendo Everything. There's a few more quotes that are relevant, and then we'll discuss it in a second. Ever since Paper Mario Color Splash, we have had almost complete control over the creative direction of the game. Mr. Miyamoto checked in on a development once or twice, but there were no specific requests to make changes. However, all of the character designs have to pass a check by our IP team. That's important, which is pretty strict. Nonetheless, we were allowed to change the outfits of some toads in this game. Director Masahiko Nagaya also weighed in with the following. Mr. Tanabe is correct about us having complete creative control over the crucial elements of the game. We were constantly checking whether or not our approach was moving too far away from the Mario universe. Again, important. During development, we were also careful not to disappoint the expectations of fans of the core Mario series. As mentioned, there are strict guidelines related to the use of characters. Important. It's a challenge to emphasize the unique aspects of the game while still adhering to the guidelines. Okay, what we've learned here is that Paper Mario adheres very closely to these guidelines, these IP guidelines. That is basically the same thing as there is at the tippy top of Nintendo or in the darkest dungeon, wherever you want to picture it, there is a Mario Bible. So Paper Mario for years, up until Sticker Star, Paper Mario was running free. They're like, we can do whatever we want. There is no Bible holding us down, right? But come Sticker Star, they are now adhering to the Bible, right? The Mario Bible, which is, by the way, dictated by like the core Mario universe games, right? So they can still edit things, but you know, spin off the lower down on the tier you go, like the lower down on the ladder you are, the less creative control you have over that. They can still make Mario characters have outfits. They can still have original characters like Ollie and the stationary bosses and Olivia in Paper Mario. But they just can't edit Mario characters, specifically Mario Universe characters. So let me give you an example. This is Boo, right? It looks like a Boo. This is what Boo currently looks like in Paper Mario. I actually showed the second example first. Let's go back to the first example. This is what Boo used to look like in Paper Mario. See how it's off model? Like it doesn't quite look like every other Boo? That is basically what Paper Mario is no longer allowed to do, right? Yes, again, it sucks. I think it sucks. You know, I actually really like Paper Mario's Boo. So this is what I mean by a company having a Bible or a strict guideline, like IP guidelines or whatever, right? So you have to. It still exists, not to veer too far off the Mario universe. Maybe that's what the Bible's called in the Mario world, the main Mario universe, right? Another example is Goombella. Goombella exists in a time before the Bible oversaw Paper Mario games, right? So you can see how Goombella is like off model, right? Like, isn't totally shaped the same way as a Goomba, and she has hair, right? And not just like costume hair, but like a completely different hairstyle, implying that's what like girl Goombas would look like, right? And as you can see in the main Mario universe, they're a little bit, this is from Odyssey, they're a little bit less strict. Although, this girl Goomba is a heck of a lot closer to what a normal Goomba looks like than Goombella does. Goombella is like, you know, I want to say slimmer in the head, right? A little bit more agile, right? Like kind of the equivalent of like what Fat Pikachu looked like and now what Pikachu looks like now, like able to move around, right? So even though this is the go-to example that a lot of people are like, well, this is contradictory, it's not. Because first of all, the main Mario universe is Mario Odyssey, so they can do whatever the heck they want, I believe. I'm sure things still have to, you know, like Mario still has to look like Mario, right? But I feel like they're a lot less restrictive on the main Mario universe. So they can do whatever they want. They are not, these interviews, Tanabe is not lying. He is telling the truth because he is not the main Mario universe. Mario Odyssey is. Basically, they just have to do what the Boos do here. And it has to look like a Boo now. That's why all the Toads look the same. You know, you don't got like Toad with like, I don't know, like gigantic arms, right? And like 6 legs. Maybe one day we'll have that. But, you know, they all look like Toads. This implies, I mean, it doesn't even imply, it just straight up says that they have guidelines coming from Nintendo. The guidelines are the Bible. Let us go a little bit closer to Pokemon with Pokemon Masters. Now, people say, I constantly use Pokemon Masters as an example of canon. And people are like, well, Pokemon Masters is a spin-off. They can't be canon. Wrong. And I have said this a million times on Twitter. I'm going to say it here. Pokemon Masters is canon. With asterisks. I'm going to read this to you and then I'm going to explain. So Pokemon.com gave an interview to Mr. Sasaki, who is the main guy on Pokemon Masters. I don't remember what his exact role is, but he's the main guy. How do you flesh out characters who have had minimal screen time in the Pokemon RPGs? Did you work with people at the Pokemon Company to make sure your new details were in canon? In canon? So they straight up asked about canon. Pokemon USA asked Pokemon Masters people, is this in canon? Okay? And his response is, so by the way, like, you can already see that I'm about to disprove everybody who says this game is not canon. But let's continue. We have worked with the Pokemon Company closely on details in the game. And they have, of course, checked. Is this sounding familiar from the Paper Mario conversation? They have, of course, checked our new details to make sure they fit in the world of Pokemon. One of the major new features of this game, and the content that we want to highlight, is the interaction between various trainers. Players will be able to enjoy new and exciting interactions between trainers who may not have interacted before. To create these interactions, we considered the personalities and backgrounds, emphasis on backgrounds, of these trainers and made sure that our content did not deviate from that. And this is talking about them checking about the details with the Pokemon Company. If a character would never say or do a certain thing, never, we made sure that they do not in our game. Long story short, everything the trainers would do or say they have done in the past before Pokemon Masters, so who they are as a character coming into Pokemon Masters, everything that they talk about, everything that they refer to before Pokemon Masters is canon. Everything that happens inside of Pokemon Masters, a non-canon game, is non-canon. But if Red comes and is like, man, I had a troubled childhood. Like, he doesn't, because we followed him through his childhood, right? Even if throughout the history of Pokemon they never mentioned that, it would be canon. Because it is canon to the Bible. This thing. Here, let's, where is it? Where am I? Canon to the Bible, okay? Remember that. Even though it's not in the lore of the games, even though we've never seen it before, there is an unseen, invisible canon in the Bible that only people that work at Pokemon Company, only people that work at Nintendo working on Paper Mario, or not Paper Mario, on the main Mario universe, only those people have access to. Even though it's not, we've never played a game where we saw, this is fake, again, this is fake, let me emphasize this, that Red had a troubled childhood, right? Even though we've never had an example of that, if it's set in Pokemon Masters, you can expect that deep in the dungeons of Pokemon Company, deep in the dungeons of Nintendo, that, there is supporting examples that we just have not seen yet. Feels bad, poor Red. No, it's not real, I swear. So, I'm going to show you guys some examples of this just straight up existing, that you've seen before, that you for sure have seen before, okay? These are, I forgot what they're called. Style sheets, I want to say. Character sheets, reference sheets, concept art. We'll go with all of them. Basically, these are what the developers at Game Freak make for the people in the Pokemon anime, people that make the figures, the people that make, Pokemon Masters, all the spin-off games. I already said merchandise, but like shirts and stuff like that, clear files. TCG artists. And that's so the characters can stay on model. This is what Nintendo forced on the Paper Mario dudes, right? Like, you gotta make Boo look like this. You can still do it in your art style, right? But it's gotta, pass those difficult IP checks to make sure it looks, to make sure green looks like green, right? Or in my case, blue, right? You gotta make sure Mega Sceptile looks like Mega Sceptile. You gotta make sure his tail works the way his tail's supposed to work. That's what happened to Paper Mario. This is actually very personal to me because I have seen some of this stuff firsthand. A year ago, 2 years ago, I started competing in the Pokemon Illustrator Grand Prix, which is a contest to become a official Pokemon TCG artist. The problem is that I found out partway through that you had to be a resident of Japan, so I had to not continue. The nice thing was, the cool thing was, is to the people entering the contest, and I think you could just by going on their website at the time, you could gain access to resources where it told you how you had to make a Pokemon. Like, if you do not make a Pokemon like this, no matter what your art style is, no matter what your medium is, if you do not follow these strict style guidelines to how you make a Pikachu, it does not qualify. That's why Pikachu always looks like Pikachu. No matter what art style it is, it still looks like Pikachu, right? And it was so detailed to the point where, like, when I was drawing my Pikachu, the reason I'm using a Pikachu is because I was drawing a Pikachu. You had to use the exact correct amount of, like, lightning bolt tail, like, zigzags. There was an exact amount, which to me, like, you know, I never really thought of it. Like, of course that makes sense, but, like, it was for some reason still like oh, duh they would do that. It's always been the same amount, right? It was a glimpse into the Pokemon. I had a glimpse into the Pokemon Bible. Just like the Pokemon Masters trainers have to act a certain way, Pikachu had to have a certain amount of tail zigzags. So that's important. Now that we've had the Bible discussion, we're gonna have a similar discussion about video game history and how important it is not to always look for connections, okay? So back to the Eevee theory. The reason this theory is so popular is because out of the Pokemon that were available, and still, out of the Pokemon still available, the Pokemon that made the most sense to connect to Raikou, Entei, and Suicune are the Eeveelutions, Jolteon, Flareon, and Vaporeon. They're still an iconic trio. They have the same typing. They're, you know, if you thought they were legendary dogs, they're still canines. It makes sense. The thing is, you can't always answer your theories, your lore questions, by making connections with stuff that you've seen. Again, that's what I mean by there's an invisible Bible out there that the Pokemon developers know about, that we don't know about. You're forgetting about the Kimono Girl connection? Still, people are looking for the connections. It's important not to do that all the time. It doesn't mean that there aren't connections to be found in other places, right? It's like there are obviously lore can be solved, and lore has been solved many times over. But it's important when you are looking for those things not to force yourself to find it. Sometimes there's stuff in video game history, like within the history of the game being made, that you just aren't aware of, and you may never be aware of. But that's where Yoshi comes in, okay? This is Yoshi. I don't know if you guys have ever met Yoshi before, but Yoshi is a very good example. And that's because I have always wanted to know why Baby Yoshi looks so different in one very specific way. And that is that Baby Yoshi, I'm still looking at you guys in chat. That's because Baby Yoshi has a beak. Not this big round nose, but Baby Yoshi has a beak. Just like I thought it was weird that Red, in my last video, you gotta go back and watch it, that Red had teal pants, when teal pants weren't exactly easy to come by. Like, why was the decision made to have teal pants? And we found out that answer. Go watch the video. So this is another one of those things that, growing up, because Baby Yoshi has been around for a very long time, he was in one of the in-between frames when, in Super Mario World, when Baby Yoshi becomes Big Yoshi, right? Baby Yoshi's been around forever, but I've always wondered why Baby Yoshi has a beak. And especially once we saw a CG version of Baby Yoshi, I was like, they kept the beak. He doesn't have like a round, big nose, right? So, again, one of those things that just stood out to me as different. Why did they decide to design that? The reason was, and it was something none of us would have ever, I mean, like, we could have if we, you know, floated the idea around. Something that none of us figured out, right? All right, let's rewind. Just a split second. If this was the same scenario as the Eevees, right? The legendary dogs being Eevees. If for some reason we wanted to know why Yoshi's beak was that way, with the same amount of effort as trying to figure out who the legendary dogs were, we would have never come across the answer. The reason is, because the answer to why Baby Yoshi has a beak, if you have seen the recent Gigaleak, Beta Yoshi, or Prototype Yoshi more specifically, has a beak. Okay? That's why. Baby Yoshi's beak is a leftover from the original drafts of Yoshi. original Yoshi has a beak. And that's why. We would have never found that. If we dug into the lore of Super Mario, we'd have never come across beaked Yoshi. Because that just wasn't available to us. That was in their archives. That was in their video game history. That's an important lesson, is that sometimes we just don't have access to the answers. And there's actually an example in Pokemon that I can show you that supports this. This is Wartortle, and this is Blastoise. I'm sure you guys are familiar. If you're watching my video right now, I'm sure you guys are very familiar. Now, I have had tweets way back when talking about how cool it was that the Gen 1 starters just didn't make sense with where they arrived, right? Like Squirtle with the curled... I should have put Squirtle on here, I didn't. Squirtle with the squirrel tail, right? Kind of turning into Wartortle with the wispy tail, right? Made sense. But then you got to Blastoise, he lost the wings on his head, right? And he gained like cannons, and he has like a completely different face. I just thought that kind of stuff was so cool about Gen 1, is that it just seemed like there was no rhyme or reason why it just jumped from one style to the other, right? I was like, that stuff's cool. I think more Pokemon should do that nowadays. Oh, you know where I'm going with this? I know. Come to find out that when a different league, I guess it's the same league, happens, we found out that Wartortle and Squirtle originally had a different third evolution that made a ton more sense to be at the end of that evolution line. And Blastoise actually was part of a different evolution, a two-stage evolution line, which I didn't put the first one in, because whatever, where his younger version, his earlier stage, looked a heck of a lot more like Blastoise. It had like a Blastoise head. We only have seen the back of his head, but it had like a Blastoise head. So, where does that leave us? It is important to not always find connections. It is also important to remember that there is an invisible Bible. It is important to remember that there's an invisible Bible. How does all this relate to our legendary dogs that are not dogs, they are cats? Well, not too long ago, before all of the leaks happened, before all of this other stuff happened, there was an anime. An anime came out, and keeping in mind that Pokemon is incredibly strict. Ever since the Pokemon Company existed, Pokemon has been incredibly strict with their Bible, their Pokemon Bible. Like, you know, real animals disappeared from the anime. You know what I mean? Like, things became a lot more strict in the world of Pokemon. So, fast forward years and years later, an anime came out called Pokemon Generations. And in Pokemon Generations, we saw these. There was an episode about the origin of the legendary dogs, where when they were talking about the 3 Pokemon that burned and became, you know, when Ho-Oh came down and resurrected them as the 3 legendary dogs, they showed off these 3 silhouettes. This wasn't an accident. And I knew that even way back then. I knew because of how strict Pokemon was, they wouldn't just allow some anime company to just put in a placeholder creature. I knew there had to be something, there had to be their Bible where they knew what Pokemon they were, and this was the first glimpse we had at them. We just weren't allowed to know what they were yet. It has not come up in Pokemon yet, where, you know, there has been no video game that has shown who they are yet. Now, amazingly, and I was so stoked about this, the moment this showed up, amazingly, we did end up finding out something that gave us a glimpse into their Bible. And that was a leak that happened recently with these. These are the prototype versions of Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. If you look, they have an incredibly similar silhouette to the leaked early versions of Entei, Suicune, and Raikou. I lost it. I was so excited. I was so sure. I posted, and like I had people like telling me, I don't remember, I posted it many times, but at one point I remember talking to somebody and they're like, no, they're just placeholders, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't take it so seriously. But I knew, as soon as I saw this, that I was on the right track, that somewhere deep in the dungeons of the Pokemon Company, there are these silhouettes, these dogs, okay? By the way, I lied to you. They totally are dogs. They aren't dogs, but they totally are dogs. So if you call them legendary dogs, whatever. They basically are. They were at one point. Okay, they were normal dogs, and then they became legendary, so maybe they're not legendary dogs anymore, but at one point they were dogs. Other than maybe Houndoom, there really isn't any Pokemon that exist that have this silhouette. If you were to shave off the special properties, because these, you gotta remember, these are the post-transformed ones. These are after Ho has, like, intervened, right? If you were to shave off, like, their elemental aspects, they would look like this. Like, if you were to take off their anime hair, they would look like this. There is no way either of us know, or any of us, I guess there's more than 2 people here, if these were changed to look like the beta designs afterwards. They're like, oh, we can still repurpose the beta designs. Or if this is what they looked like before they got here. So, like, these could be older than these guys, or just as old, right? Or these could be because of these guys. But the point is that we didn't know about, we're not even supposed to know about these guys, but these guys over here turned out exactly like them, which means that when they were making Pokemon Generations, you know, the Pokemon Company came with their Bible and they opened it up and they're like, here it is, look at them and make them, but don't show what they truly look like. Okay, we're going back home now, right? They got a glimpse into it. And there is, like, I don't care how much you try to convince me otherwise, there is no way that insane amount of a coincidence could happen. That, I guess, really is the proof as to why Entei, Raikou, and Suicune are not evolutions. Before we even got the leaks, we got a glimpse into the Pokemon Bible, which are these silhouettes, and then the Pokemon leaks all but confirmed that these are on purpose, right? These are what the Bible dictates. These are what, you know, in Paper Mario, right? Paper Mario, they have to stick to the strict guidelines. There is a strict guideline of whatever the pre-evolution legendary beasts are that look like this. We just, as the public, have not seen them. Well, we've seen these silhouettes, but we have not seen what they truly look like. That's my proof as to why those 3 legendary dogs, which are kind of dogs, but they're mostly cats now, are not evolutions. Okay, and also, I just want to throw this in here. Here's my proof. Here's my proof. If you look at the time, this was like the same day Pokemon Generations came out, this first tweet, and I was so excited, okay? And then this was when the leak happened. So the only people that would have known, that would have crafted this theory are the people that had the leak before it leaked, right? Because I think like Helix Chamber had it for a little bit. So someone there might have come up with it, but completely independently, I was so stoked about this. I was over the moon. I was like, I knew it. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. So just proof that, like, this is not, I've had this forever. I did not watch a YouTube video. Like, I get those comments. I'm doing this mostly for the future comments under YouTube. I did not look at a YouTube video. I'm like, this was all on my own. Literally, like, the second it happened. In fact, I should probably go and get that tweet and get a timestamp for it. Taco showing receipts. Yeah, heck yeah. Heck yeah. Also, a good time to be like, hey, if you want to follow me on Twitter, sometimes I just spoil my videos ahead of time because I'm so stoked about them. All right, so if you guys have any questions, last time you guys talked to me about stuff, it ended up my answers ended up going into the video because I forgot to talk about things. You guys discussing things with me makes my argument stronger, or worse, in a good way. Like, I'm totally up for being, oh, here's one thing. I don't know what these Pokemon are. No one knows what these Pokemon are. We have an idea, we know that they're real, we know that they're somewhere, but I don't know what they are. So I don't always, my Pokemon discussions aren't always going to have a nice bow at the end. But that's okay. That is more, I'm not in this to, like, I want to know the answers, but I'm not in this to make an answer happen. I'm in this to get the right answer. Does that make sense? I don't care how underwhelming, because in future presentations, we're gonna find out that some of these answers are just super underwhelming. I don't care if the answer sucks. I don't care if it's stupid. I don't care if it's like someone spilled a coffee stain and it looked like a Pokemon. They're like, let's put this in the game, right? Like, I don't care. I care about finding the right answer. So it's just, sometimes it's gonna be underwhelming. Sometimes I'm not gonna know what this Pokemon's called, right? It is a Pokemon, it exists, and I know that now. I feel like 99.9999999% that, like, this is in a lore Bible somewhere, the Pokemon lore Bible. But yeah, I think that's an important thing to understand. We're just not always going to have answers, right? Boltons? I doubt it. It's entirely believable in universe that they don't know what the Pokemon are either. Exactly. It's just so old, right? And I feel like these are one of those things that are going to come around in a Pokemon Generations, right? But like a different one. Whatever the next Pokemon Generations is called, Pokemon history, the animated show, right? Like, they'll have more stuff to touch on in the future because this is progress that we didn't have before. These Pokemon, these silhouettes, we didn't have these before, which means it's a step forward into figuring out what they are. Do you think the Pokemon Company even knows what these Pokemon are? Yeah. Well, like, fleshed out, maybe not. I feel like probably. To the extent... I mean, like, we have examples of them not fleshing things out quite yet, but then fleshing them out. Like, I don't think they knew what Mew looked like originally before Mew was added. Mew was added last second, but they had the origin story of Mewtwo before Mew was designed, I believe. So, like, they could have, 50, 70% of these guys done, but they might not have the whole story. Yeah, I mean, like, and I think when the time comes for them to be a thing, we'll know about them. So, that was my presentation. Eevees are the legendary dogs, cats, beasts are not Eevees. Okay? Alright, guys. Alright, see you guys. Thank you guys for coming. Follow me if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter if you're for some reason seeing me here for the first time. I'm not sure. But, goodbye. See you later. Good night, everybody.